Adam Caplan, NFL Insider, SiriusXM NFL Radio, at Caplan NFL, and he joins us right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. All right, Adam, let's, I guess, reflect back real quick, go inside the locker room, inside the birds, if you will, and give us just a little reaction, what you thought going in, what you saw, and after week one with Philly against Washington.
All right, Mike, so I'll give you a little bit of kind of where I was at, and Jeff and I did our show. This particular show was last Friday because we previewed the game last Friday morning, so I said I think it's going to be fairly close. I know the line was 9.5. I actually picked the Redskins to cover. All right, fine, they got the backdoor cover. But when they were down 17-0, I was probably one of the few people inside Lincoln Financial Field who said, you know what, as long as they don't give up another touchdown here, I still think they have a chance because the Redskins are a bad football team. The roster's clearly not good enough. They have a pretty good defense in terms of personnel, but they were going to have trouble scoring. But if you flip the halves, I probably would have been right. But the way that the first half went, I was stunned at how well the Redskins were scoring. But we would learn later that they went max protection. They went with a lot of 7-man. Talked to someone with the Eagles who said that did match what they saw on tape. And the Eagles really just kept coming, and they finally got themselves together on both sides of the football. Both sides of the football were poor. Don't let anyone fool you with the final numbers for Carson Wentz. I'm not criticizing him. He played well overall. Their offense was pitiful the first half. I mean, there's really no way to say it. They
because of him or because of the game plan?
What's that?
Because of him or because of the personnel in the game plan?
No, it was just the Deshaun Jackson penalty. Someone reminded me twice now this week. Let's not forget, this person with Eagles said, look, if Deshaun doesn't have that penalty, remember, it's now 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 17. I mean, there's certain things that happen where drives would bog down. But I think reality, Mike, talent always takes over. It rarely doesn't in the National Football League. And the most talented team, the much better team, won. And the fact that somehow they scored 32 points is mind-boggling with how bad their offense was in the first half.
And amazing, Adam, they scored 32 points in a concentrated time period without even causing a turnover, which means A, the defense really tightened up and forced a lot of 3-and-outs, and B, the offense was very prolific. You don't see 32 points scored in that kind of concentrated time frame usually without a pick or a fumble recovery that gives good field position.
Right, and Jeff, the big drive, that long drive with whatever it was, 19 plays, whatever it was, Wentz was surgical. Now, the one thing I do want to point out, and no one's really talking about this, but someone with the Eagles pointed this out to me, and I want to make this perfectly clear. Yes, they had 2 big plays to Deshaun Jackson, but the other thing they do want is they want the tight ends to move the ball downfield a little bit more. Although Goddard, I'm told, his blocking was good, they just want to get him the ball more. Doug Peterson actually said that in his press conference today in his own way. They need to move the ball into the intermediate area a little bit better. That was probably one area I think if they went back, they would have done a better job of. And look, we didn't even talk about the run game. That to me was the one. I know overall they ran the ball well, but the usage, the rotations were bizarre to me. I haven't really seen Doug call play a game like that with the running backs.
Hey, real quick, Adam. Minnesota ran the ball down the throat of Atlanta last week. Does Doug look at that at all and say, hey, it worked for them, let me see what I could do?
No, I think you got to be careful. Yes, sure, Mike, they had success, but this is not, when you look at the way this team has been since Doug's called plays, they typically come out throwing the football in the first half, mix the run in. This last game, I wasn't quite sure what they were really doing. There was really no flow to what they were doing in the first half. And Doug will just say it's a matter of execution, which is what coaches always say. I think you got to come out and just run the plays like you normally would run. Now, remember, Mike, we and Jeff, we've never seen a team like this with the Eagles really since probably the mid-2000s with passing targets availability. The Eagles are so deep; they're literally 6 deep in pass targets. You got to move the football in the air when you come into the first half and mix the run in. But my issue though was with Jordan Howard. How does he not get the ball in the second quarter? And you know how well he played. If you're going to use your running backs, they need to go with 1 or 2 of them. Doug's excuse was that it was the first game of the year, and it was between 82 and 85 degrees during the game. You know how they wear down. He did not want anyone to wear down, and I get that. But, again, you have to have a plan for these running backs. I wasn't sure what he was doing there, but I'll tell you this. The tape was much better than the numbers show. For what I'm told, the tape was fantastic with the 3 running backs. All of them look good.
Adam, you talk, while we're on the subject of usage, the Eagles releasing Alex Ellis, so they're back down to 2 tight ends on the 53-man roster, and they have an opening between now and 4 o'clock on Saturday. How do you think that opening will be filled? Are they looking for a position other than tight end? Are they going to go into that game against Atlanta with just 2?
Well, Jeff, I'd also mention corner. And we'll give folks a little bit of a preview. Jeff and I will talk about. We dropped our new Inside the Bird show today. We talk about the defense and what's going to happen if they cover like that against Atlanta. They need another cornerback. Now, what they do need is a veteran outside corner. Those guys are hard to find. They're very young at corner, which is a good thing, by the way. All those corners really 25 years old, and Ronald Darby. But they need a veteran on the outside who's kind of savvy and who's been there before. But those guys are hard to find, and that's that if you could find one, you would hold on to one. I just can't imagine they're going to go in this game with just 4 corners. And Jeff, you're right. If Alatelis clears waivers today, it wouldn't shock me if he goes in the practice squad, and then they could sign him off. They could sign him off. The deadline for that one is Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern for Sunday games, even Sunday night games. But they got to play. I want to make this perfectly clear. If their corners play like this, the way that they did, they're going to give up. They're going to give up 4 to 5 touchdowns to Matt Ryan. If I'm Dirk Cutter, I'm going right after those corners early on. Make them beat me.
Talk with Adam Caplan here. Cap, let me get your thoughts on this Jackson injury. He's out for the year, obviously. They brought in Akeem Spence. They've got Jernigan, Ridgway's here. We don't know as much about Jackson because he only played 1 game here. So What are the Eagles losing, and how are they replacing him? Is it a significant loss, and are they equipped to replace him?
It's a good question, Mike. It's really a potential. When you say how significant it is, we don't know because he only played just over half, but it's what they were hoping they were going to get. He's a one-gap penetrator who gets upfield, and he's just got rare size. I mean, 6'5". And 32 to 33-inch arms is you just don't see this with defensive tackles. And ironically, who do they sign? Akeem Spence, who's 6'1". Though Spence can rush a little bit, he's not like Jackson. When Jackson got the monster contract from the Jaguars 4 years ago because of his ability to rush the passer, and they're not going to have that. Ridgway's a nice player, Mike. He's been a really good acquisition. They're only giving up a 7th-round pick for him. That's pretty good. But look, it's a potential. Now, they did have Jernigan, as we know, start for them during the Super Bowl run. He is on a 1-year contract. He's very motivated, as I understand it, talking to someone close to him, to have a big year so he can get more money next year. So you expect him to play good. And then when we get to October, we'll talk more about the trade deadline, because if these guys don't work out, that's one position which I think they'll look to fill is defensive tackle in terms of pass rushers. Fletcher Cox is going to need some help, and Fletcher did tell Jeff and I. Jeff and I talked to him after the game. He felt better, way better in the second half. He needed to get his legs, and I think part of that, by the way, is not playing the preseason.
Interesting stuff. Inside the Birds podcast with Jeff Mosher and Adam Caplan. It is dropped, and those guys do a great job with that. We'll have Adam throughout the season right here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as the Eagles get ready to take on the Falcons midweek here. Adam, appreciate the time as always, pal.
Guys, thank you.